Bisecting the city like concrete scars, the two flood control channels on Mission Creek, known as the Caltrans channels, stand as testament to the philosophy of function over form. The 0.3-mile section between Los Olivos and Pedregosa streets and the 0.8-mile section between Arriaga and Canon Perdido were constructed in 1934 and 1961 respectively by the California Department of Transportation to improve flood control along Highway 101.
And in order to do that, they had to widen that road area, and Mission Creek actually went on to the west side. It went all the way under what is now the freeway, and instead of building two bridges, kind of assuming that, they just straightened the creek and put it in concrete.
The concrete channels have performed as designed, but at a cost.
From a habitat standpoint, as you can tell, there's not a lot of trees in this channel. There's a lot of sunlight. If water does flow over it, there's no little pools or anything for the frogs or any other fish or anything else to live. And because it's so sunny, the water flows over in a very thin sheet over this concrete, and it heats up. And when you heat up water, that's not good for any aquatic organisms.
No creature has been more impacted by the construction of the Caltrans channels than the Southern California steelhead. The southern steelhead is a remarkable fish that begins its life in freshwater and migrates to the ocean, where it spends most of its adult life. It needs to return to freshwater to spawn, and this is where the concrete channels become a problem.
And the reason is, when the water flows at low flow rates, it flows at a thin sheet and it's too shallow for the fish to swim up. And when it goes at a high rate, the fish cannot swim against that fast water for that long.
Human-made barriers like concrete channels, dams, and culverts have impacted the steelhead so adversely, it's estimated that the population is less than 1% of historical levels. As a result, the National Marine Fisheries Service listed the southern steelhead as an endangered species in 1997.
And so they wrote a big management plan, and in the management plan, Mission Creek was identified as one of their priority creeks, basically, for restoration of trying to get steelhead back, because there's an existing population of coastal rainbow trout or steelhead. They're the same thing, and there's some good habitat upstream, and so they figured, well, this is a good stream to try to restore steelhead.
With the fate of an endangered species in the mix and restoration as one of its goals, the Creeks Division began the daunting task of trying to solve the challenge of the channel starting in 2006. Adding to the difficulty is the requirement that, whatever they did, it could not negatively affect flood control. So with limited funds and lots of constraints, Creeks staff began to focus on ways to simply allow steelhead up the channel.
So a lot of ideas were explored. We went and did some physical modeling, and this is what we came up with. Just a fish passage channel cut into the bed of the existing concrete with small cutouts on the side. We call them pockets that act as resting areas, or kind of like pools in a natural stream, so that the fish have a place to rest on their way upstream. We're able to slow the water down some, increase the depth, the two things that this channel really prohibit.
The majority of the funding for the $2.8 million project came from outside sources.
We have funding from three main sources: the Department of Fish and Wildlife Service, we have it from Wildlife Conservation Board, and we've got funding from the State Coastal Conservancy.
Southern California steelhead are native to streams and rivers along the coast from Santa Maria to the Mexican border, and populations historically existed in all of the larger watersheds within Santa Barbara County. With the new Fish Passage project, the Creeks Division aims to return the steelhead to Mission Creek, while at the same time restore a piece of Santa Barbara's heritage.
It's really important to maintain that run just to keep the population around of the resident fish, because if you do have situations like drought and fire that wipe out the population, the only way for them to get repopulated is through the steelhead to swim back upstream.